Hey guys, Scorpius here and welcome back to the channel. If I sound a little bit weird, it's because I'm sick. But that doesn't stop us from releasing another guide. Today we will look at the most popular and arguably the most broken build in Path of Exile 2. The Attribute Stacking Gemling Build. Following today's guide, we'll end up looking something like this. So obviously this build is an absolute endgame wrecker, and with so many players using different variations of it to obliterate bosses and melt content, it's no surprise it might be at the top of the nerf radar in the near future. So with that being said, I decided to have some fun and put together a good low budget leveling build so you can try it out too. The build I'm gonna show can vary from a few exalted orbs all the way to a maximum of 10 divine. If you have some of these items on your main, then you don't need to buy them again. But if you're new to Path of Exile 2, I wouldn't recommend you to try this build, not at least have a main in endgame to farm some currency. And speaking of farming currency, imagine playing Path of Exile 2 on your phone, whether it's to level up a new character, farm currency, or stay in the game to sell your items. Well, it's now possible, and that's exactly what I've been doing, thanks to today's sponsor, Awesome. Awesome lets you remotely connect to your PC from your phone anytime, anywhere. Whether you're at work, lounging in bed, or out and about, you'll have complete control of your PC to do whatever you need. And it's not just for gaming. You can browse the web, transfer files, print remotely, or mirror your screen. All completely free. Upgrade to their Pro version for even more functionality, like remote CMD and controlling your Android devices. But my favorite feature, and the one I've been using the most, is their game package. This lets you access all of your PC games directly on your phone with zero lag, stuttering, or FPS drops. You can adjust mouse speed, customize keyboard layouts, and even use their drag type for WASD movement. Personally, I use Awesome to keep my character online to sell items or knock out low-tier maps for farming, all while I'm not even home. The first 200 subscribers who use the code Scorpius will get a 7-day free trial of the game package, which includes everything you need to take your gaming mobile. And getting started is simple. Follow the first link in the description to sign up. Click the second link to redeem code Scorpius for your 7-day trial. Download Awesome Remote on your PC, log in, and bind your device. Go to Settings, Security, and set an independent password. Finally, download the app on your phone, log in, select your device, type the password, and enjoy full access to your PC. Seriously, give it a try. You won't believe how smooth it is. And big thanks to Awesome for sponsoring this video. Okay, so the way that this build plays is by stacking as many attributes as you can. So that's Dexterity, Intelligence, and Strength. The best class for this build is Mercenary. Monk is still viable with this build, but the Mercenary is much better due to its Ascendancy nodes. Once you've created your Mercenary and complete the tutorial phase, up until the first encampment, you'll want to go to the official training site and start buying the cheap unique items we'll need. First on the list is Pillar of Caged God Quarterstaff. This weapon is the main core of this whole build and the reason why we're stacking attributes. Your intelligence will turn into area of effect, dexterity into attack speed, and strength into weapon damage. Even though this weapon should have been the most expensive part of the build because without it you cannot do it and we're gonna be using it forever, it's actually one of the cheapest things you're gonna buy with one exalted orb. Next up is Foxshade Quilted Vest, the chest piece. This is gonna give us a good movement speed boost and some decent dexterity. And once again, it costs a max of one exalted orb. Then we have the Meganord's Girdle Belt, which also costs one exalted and gives a huge chunk of strength. Next, we've got the Grey Make Brimmed Helm, which also costs one exalted orb, and it gives an insane amount of attributes. For the first 30 levels, we'll be using this helmet. However, after level 30, we'll be replacing it with our best in slot helmet called Black Sun Crest. The reason why we want to wait until level 30 to make this change is because the attributes on the Grey Make are very high, and up until level 30, the negative effect on it won't make a difference. Black Sun Crest, however, will be our main helmet going forward, and it only costs one exalted as well, so you might want to buy that one too. And remember to equip it at level 30. The unique amulet that we want also costs one exalted orb, and it's called Sure-Footed Sigil. Once we equip this amulet, then you want to start spamming your dodge, as it will make you travel a bit faster than walking. plus it gives some pretty decent stats. For our boots, we want the Wanderlust wrapped sandals that also cost 1 Exalted Orb and increase our movement speed significantly. Definitely a must-have. Then we have our rings. We want the Palsy ring, which will help us explode everything in front of us and costs 1 Exalted Orb, and the Death Rush Emerald ring that also costs 1 Exalted Orb and gives some pretty good defensives. For gloves, we don't have any uniques. You can have some rare gloves with some attributes and or resistances. So the whole gear that we need will cost you 9 Exalted Orb. Some of these pieces can be replaced later on, but majority will stay for the bigger chunk of your leveling. So 9 Exalted Orbs is very cheap for such a build. Later on, however, you can choose to invest more and make it even more powerful. Here's how that will look like. Weapon, belt, and chest can be equipped first. Then at level 5, you equip the Grey Make helmet. At level 8, the amulet. At 11, the boots. At level 12, the Palsy ring. And at 26, the Death Rush ring. At level 30, you want to swap the Grey Make helmet for the Black Sun crest. Up until this point, you've only given 9 Exalted Orbs. At around level 40, I would recommend that you replace the Death Rush ring with a rare ring with good attributes and resistances, as its effects will no longer be useful. So you might want to spend 1 to 5 Exalted Orbs here to find a good stats ring. At level 52 though is where the biggest power spike can happen with the Hand of Wisdom and Action gloves. These gloves will increase your damage and speed by an insane amount, but this item costs anywhere from 1 to 3 divine. And at level 65, or when you finish the campaign, you can choose to make 2 more purchases. The Warrior Invictus Grand Regalia chest, which is our best in slot and can vary from a few Exalted to at least a divine, and the Ingenuity belt that is also our best in slot and can cost anywhere from 2 to 5 divine. Bear in mind, however, that every piece of gear I mentioned so far, the prices are checked on the date of writing this video, and I'm mentioning the minimum price. If you want to get the best stats and variations of some of these pieces, the price will differ. However, you do not need to have all of these items. Here is my mercenary with the Hand of Wisdom gloves and the Utility belt. And here's the same exact character without the gloves and the belt. So obviously the difference in numbers is insanely big, but you don't really feel it if you don't have the items. So here are the totals. For a full low budget gear, you will need anywhere between 9 Exalted Orbs to at least 1 to 2 Divine. And for a higher budget version, it can vary up to 10 Divine Orbs. Anything spent more than that means that you're over level 90 and you're hard pushing the endgame maps and bosses. So now that you're aware of the whole gear and what we need, let's begin with our abilities. The first ability we'll go for is Glacial Cascade. This ability sends an Icy Fissure, which deals good AoE damage. If you hit enemies with a large spike at the end of the ability, it will deal even more damage. The support gems we want on this are Martial Tempo for speed, Primal Armament for elemental damage, and Mobility to reduce the movement penalty when using it. We will also use our main Quarterstaff hits as well, as they will be one-shotting everything, and Glacial Cascade for some AoE damage. At level 14, we will stop using Glacial Cascade and the Quarterstaff hits, as we will unlock Tempest Flurry and Tempest Bell. Tempest Flurry is the main protagonist of this build. It performs a series of strikes that deal damage with a final strike at the end of the combo for an even stronger hit. If you only have a 3-link on it, then you want to run Martial Tempo for the speed, Crescendo for an extra final strike, and Electrocute for an extra electrocution buildup. If you manage to add a 4th link, then go for Inspiration for the mana cost, and Bullseye for more accuracy if you have the 5th link. Tempest Bell is also one of our main abilities, but it's mostly used on bosses. To use the bell, you need to firstly build 4 combo points by hitting the boss 4 times, and with Flurry, that's very easy. Once you have the 4 points, you want to use the bell. Tempest Bell will deal damage upon impact and then will resonate any damage that you hit it with to the enemies. The support gems that you want are Close Combat and Concentrated Effect for more damage up close, Leverage for increased crit on immobilized enemies, and Overabundance so we can use a second bell. If you only have 3 links on it, then you can drop Overabundance for now. now. Next ability we're gonna get is Storm Wave. Storm Wave sends bolts of lightning through the ground towards your enemies as a lightning wave, and it deals a lot of AoE damage. For the majority of the leveling, Storm Wave will be our best ability to clear areas, and Tempest Flurry will be for bosses. The support gems you want are Mobility to reduce the movement penalty, Ambush for more crit chance on enemies with full life, Primal Armament for more elemental damage, and if you have a fourth link, you can go with Upheaval, which creates 2 additional lightning waves for the cost of some damage. Next up, we've got our 2 auras. You will eventually want to unlock both of these, and depending on if you have the Palsy Ring or not, use them in different ways. If you have the Palsy Ring, then start with Herald of Ice and add Cold Infusion, Glaciation, Magnified Effect, and if you have the fourth link, go for Ice Bite. All of these support gems will make the Herald of Ice deal more damage, trigger more explosions, and increase its area of effect. Then go for Herald of Thunder, which should be paired with Lightning Infusion, Innervate, Lightning Mastery, and Conduction if you have the fourth link. These 4 gems will increase its damage, give you +1 level on all of your lightning skills, and increase your shock chance. This Herald and Ice and Thunder combination is used up until level 50, and only if you have the Palsy Ring. At level 50, it's a good idea to swap out of the Palsy Ring anyway with a new updated rare ring that will give you better stats. So if you're past level 50 or you don't have the Palsy Ring to begin with, you want to literally swap all the support gems. So Herald of Ice will now have Lightning Infusion, Innervate, Conduction, and Magnified Effect, while Herald of Thunder will have Cold Infusion, Glaciation, Lightning Mastery, and Ice Bite. This is a very popular monk tech that we've been using throughout all of our guides, which creates a trigger between the 2 heralds and recreates the effects of the Palsy Ring. However, bear in mind that you will need to have at least 300 cold damage on your main abilities to trigger the explosions without the ring. Hence the reason why you wait until level 50 to swap it out. Early level Storm Wave will be the one which will trigger the explosions, hence the reason it's our main ability. And lastly, for this leveling build, you want to grab Wind Dancer towards the end of your Cruelty campaign. Wind Dancer gives us a much needed evasion buff and slightly damages and knocks back enemies around us. The support gems we want on this are Blind, Maim, and Pin for extra CCs. Moving on to the main part of this build, the passive skill tree. The Ascendancy we want is of course Gemling Legionnaire. The first 4 points should go to adaptive capability and enhanced effectiveness, and then the other 4 to crystalline potential and advanced thaumaturgy. Ideally, you want to ask a friend to boost you to get all 8 points straight away, or you can find someone in the trade chat. This will usually cost anywhere between 80 exalted orbs to 1 divine. And you need to be at least level 20 and have Trial of Sekemus unlocked. They simply boost you to the final boss and you unlock all 8 points. Definitely worth the currency. Now, regarding the normal tree, I have split the tree into 4 sections to make it easier for you to follow through. But it will be good for you to understand what we're going for and why. So first stage is points 1 to 23. I call them points instead of levels because you'll be getting extra passive points from doing quests and side bosses. So you will always be able to invest more points than levels that you are. Our first big note here is Battle Hardened, which gives us some extra attributes while giving us some defensives as well. Then we want to get the whole left and right side of the star. Already by point 23, with these nodes and our gear, our attributes are going to be insanely high. Remember that dexterity increases our speed, strength increases our damage, and intelligence our area of effect. So early on, strength and dexterity are the main ones that we want. Later on, we can respec some of our attributes to go mainly intelligence to complement our explosions. Next, for points 24 to 48, we want to firstly get Curved Weapon and Colossal Weapon before we climb all the way to get Martial Artistry. This whole trip has multiple benefits. A, you stack attributes. B, we empower our accuracy, crit, and dexterity. And C, it gets us closer to our next huge nodes. Points 49 to 68 is packed with insanely good nodes that will power spike your damage and speed. Starting off with proficiency for extra dexterity, enhanced reflexes for even more dexterity and some defensives, Falcon Technique which will increase your speed tremendously, and then going at the bottom to pick up acceleration and maiming strike. Once you get Falcon Technique though, it would be wise to check your attribute numbers. You'll notice that dexterity is much higher than the other two. So the best thing to do at this point is to start balancing them out. It's okay to drop dexterity a little bit because we have so many passive nodes that give us dexterity and empower our speed that we won't lose too much of it. Best approach to balancing them is to have a 20% gap between the three attributes. For example, if you have 200 intelligence, then strength should be at 160 and dexterity at 128. For the remaining points, we want to go for escape velocity, which is below Falcon technique for some more movement speed and defensives, Wild Storm at the very top for extra lightning damage, as well as pick up Lightning Rod and Adrenaline Rush at the very bottom. If you haven't finished the campaign yet and have a few extra points, you can get the Jeweled Socket right next to Adrenaline Rush. And speaking of jeweled sockets, here's what you can get. For the leveling build, you can add 1 ruby with 1 rage on melee hit. This will increase your damage by a lot and will spare us from using the rage support gem on our Tempest Flurry. For the other jewels, you can try focusing a bit on defensives since we don't have any. Things like max energy shield, mana regen, damage taken from mana before life, and life recovered on kill. And with that out of the way, we have fully covered the whole attribute stacking Gemling leveling build. Bear in mind that the endgame version of this build has a very different passive skill tree and includes Combat Frenzy and Charged Staff as well as some differences in support gems. Depending on when you watch this, the endgame build guide will either be already out or will be released as soon as possible. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions for the leveling build, feel free to comment down below and I'll make sure to answer to each and every one. As always, if this guide helped you out in any way, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel so you can stay tuned with all the Path of Exile 2 content and guides. Since you enjoyed this build, here are 2 more guides that you might like. Thank you for watching, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Peace.